Everybody joining me right now for the first ever inaugural conversation here at WFANation.com is Taylor Hay of the St. Louis Slam. Taylor, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, I know people, when they hear interviews like this, don't always know how they go down, but you're in a car, you're driving home from your job to your house. How in the world are you juggling a full-time job and playing in this league? It seems like a full-time job is enough, but then adding on top of it the responsibilities of the league, it's almost like having two different jobs, except in one job you get beat up every day.
Right, exactly. And then the other one you get paid for, so it kind of works out, right? I think it kind of comes from college. In college, you have to juggle schoolwork. Being a student athlete anyway, you have to juggle schoolwork, and then you have to maintain yourself on the field because at the end of the day, your scholarship is kind of paying for you to go to school. So your sport is really what's paying for you to get your degree. So it's kind of, you learn that through college just naturally, and it just seems like, okay, this is just the way it works.
Well, with the WFA, it's the opposite, isn't it? Because in the WFA, your job is what's funding your continued play on the field.
And actually, I have a PRN job that I work extra for just so I can, because, our fees are actually a little bit higher in St. Louis. We're not 100% a 501c3 yet, so it is a little different for us than it is for other teams. So each of us raise close to almost $900 a piece, and sometimes we need that money up front. Now, we generally make that money back through ticket sales, but the games aren't here yet. So a lot of us have to come out of our own pocket and just go ahead and pay that up front until we can actually get ticket sales up and running and stuff like that.
Well, you've gone into some deep territory there. For those who are listening now and don't know a lot about the WFA, the issue of money and playing and paying to play and all that, it's a significant issue. And I want to cover that in a moment. But before we get to that, I want to kind of go to the beginning with you. You mentioned in college being a student athlete. What sport did you play in college? And because if I'm correct, it probably wasn't contact tackle football.
Oh, it definitely wasn't. It was women's soccer.
Soccer, it seems like maybe one of the most strenuous sports on the planet. Am I right about that?
I didn't know that until I switched from one sport to the other and then went back to soccer, and I realized that your bodies are completely conditioned in two different separate worlds, yes, so it is pretty strenuous.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Mizzou and Missouri Baptist.
Now, when you got out of college, one of the themes I see from a lot of players in the WFA is the love of sports, and then sort of the cliff dive that comes from you love it and you're playing it to, okay, now where am I going to play and what am I going to play, especially at a professional level. Did you have that kind of love and drive for sports after college?
I did, and you go through an identity crisis because my entire life, I identified myself as an athlete or a soccer player. And then when soccer was over, it's kind of like, oh, what do I do with myself? And you can, a lot of people get into CrossFit, but I need like that competitive drive, like the contact of a sport. Like the kickball thing is really popular, and like I said, the CrossFit is really popular, but I needed something more. So I was like, I have to do something. So women's football happened to be right in front of me when I was going through that identity crisis.
So let's talk about that identity crisis and what was in front of you. You come out of college, you're an athlete, soccer is your sport, you're looking for competition, you're not looking for some of those solo sports. How did you get introduced to the WFA? And tell us the path you went from college to the WFA.
There was a coach for the St. Louis Slam who also coached the boys' high school team at my high school. And when I was in high school, actually I was a student, like a teacher's assistant for him. And he was like, well, when you're done with college soccer, you should come try. I'm like, no, I've seen those girls. Like, I'll get murdered because I'm small. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. And then I just kind of, like, left it at that. We didn't discuss it any further. And then when I graduated, there was a semi-pro soccer team I had been playing on all through college, like during the summer, and it had folded because of financial issues. So I didn't really have a choice. And I saw he posted something about football on Facebook, so I inboxed him and was like, okay, let's try this football thing. He's like, okay, come out. And they actually needed a kicker. So I was like, okay, perfect. And 2 weeks before the first game, they found a way to get me pads and jerseys and everything else. And in 2 weeks, I was playing in a football game for the first time in my life with no experience at all. Then after about 2 or 3 games, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm bored. I have to do something else. This just kicking for 3.5 hours of watching a game is not going to do it. So I told them, I said, I want to run the ball. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, maybe is she too small? Is she going to be tough enough? And I don't know. I carried the ball. The first time I carried the ball, I actually scored. I would not take any of that credit because the line was, like, amazing. They took me all the way down the field. But after that, I knew, okay, yeah, this is where I'm going to be for at least 5 more years.
Does that ever factor into your decision to grab that ball and head up against some of those women that are clearly much larger than you?
Not at all, because my entire life I've been small. So I kind of have like the little woman complex. It's like a chip on my shoulder, like you're bigger, but I'm probably quicker. Now do I recognize it? Of course, and I'm aware of it, so that there's a couple linebackers that even though they're nicely sized, they're quick too. So I try to avoid those hits if I can. I mean, if it's there and I get hit, I get hit. Like, I'm never afraid of a hit. But, of course, I'm not trying to invite them either. But, yeah, my size is different. Like, my weight, I'm short, but I'm actually, like, I have a little bit of weight behind me, so that helps me a little bit. I think that if you have the right coaching and the right support, you'll be in a position to succeed. Like, my coach is never going to put me on the D-line. He's not going to put me in a position to fail. And we've actually had discussions about defense because I told him that. And then I also tried to get him to let me play linebacker. He's like, realistically, your size is just, it's not there. And it's not that he doesn't have faith in me because he knows I'll go out there and give 110%. But he doesn't want me to get hurt either. So, a lot of times, like, coaches have to be aware, like, we're women, so our shapes and sizes are a lot different than men. Once they recognize that and then, they have all the pieces of the puzzle, they can put us in position to succeed. And that kind of reduces injuries. And it also, I think if you're in a position and you don't feel successful, and it may be because maybe your coach doesn't have the knowledge, or, maybe you guys don't have the numbers, you may not like the game or love the game the way other people do, because who wants to play a sport that they don't really feel like they're good at?
Do you believe that the level of play on the field or that the level of coaching or anything would be different if money was not an issue? And I'm not asking a leading question. I'm just curious what you think the money issue does to the play on the field.
I think, yes, it would change the atmosphere, because you got to think about, like, when you're in college or even like in the NFL, you're working for a spot, and if you can't do it, we'll pay someone else that can. So it's us getting numbers to get people to dedicate time, like you said, to have a full-time job. People have kids, and either they're married, and so they have other things that they need to devote their time to, and they're not getting paid. This is just an extracurricular. And then the toll it takes on your body, period, it would change everything. I do it for free, but if I got paid, it would just be a bonus. But I think about the people who are like, no, I'm not going to, I just don't have the time. But if they're like, oh, I'm going to get a stipend every game, well, I could probably manage that, even if it was the smallest stipend. And then I look at coaches like they do behind the scenes more than anything we could do. Like the sacrifices they make, and a lot of them obviously have jobs, of course, and then most of them coach high school and everything else. So for them to go ahead and put in the effort, because for women, it's almost like you're starting from scratch every single year, because there's always going to be a rookie. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's how the league continues to grow. So this year we have about 15 rookies. So we start from scratch every single year. So our coach teaches the same thing over and over. Like, he has to start from the basic fundamentals. And so we don't get to the fun stuff is what I look at it, because being a vet, it's not fun until you start put the pads on. You get
I was going to ask you, what? Yeah, the fun stuff, is that when you're hitting people? Is that the fun part?
Yeah, that's when we start hitting people and plays start coming together, and you see people start blossoming. Like, tomorrow's our first scrimmage. We scrimmage the Slam. I played with the Slam. This is my 4th year with the Slam. We always have a scrimmage, and we're going to Louisville, Kentucky, actually, to play Derby City. And it's nice to see the rookies get to hit somebody else that's not their teammates. Because, you know, when you hit your own teammates at practice, you're like, oh, my God, am I going to hurt her? I mean, I don't feel that way, but being a rookie, I did.
Yeah, but wait,
know?
hold on.
So,
Wait, hold on, Taylor. I gotta interject something here.
Okay.
You just said you actually ask, are you going to hurt her? I mean, is that an actual, I mean, see, I could not, I'm telling you, as an interviewer, as an observer, I don't think that's a question I could have brought up. But are there times when you're someone's new and you're thinking she's not ready for this?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why our coach tries to prepare us physically. Like, our first 3 months from January to March, we don't put on pads. It's all weight room, ladder, ab circuits. Like, we hate him, we hate each other, we hate ourselves. Like, our bodies hurt. But then when we put on pads, you know, you don't want to get hurt. So, but there are a couple, like, rookies that they're just timid because it's almost awkward. You mean, you're wearing pads that you've never worn before, and then you're getting ready to hit someone hard, and they're your teammate. You don't want to hurt them. You don't want to hurt yourself. And there's a couple times where you, like, as vets and as coaches, like, we know, okay, you have to look around and pair people, like, by size, weight, and, like, their aggression. So if they might be a rookie, but you could tell they're pretty aggressive and they're kind of fearless, then obviously you'll probably put them with a vet, or, you know, then there's probably the two rookies that are just like, I'm just going to patty cake with you for a little bit until, you know. But eventually you really start seeing everyone's true colors. And that's why, you know, the scrimmage is so ideal, because you get to see everyone, and they get to feel playing another team, someone hitting them, because the girls on the other team aren't going to hit them lightly. It's definitely going to be, you know, a surprise the first time you get hit by somebody else that's not on your team.
Who is the team that you're going to scrimmage?
Derby City in Louisville, Kentucky.
Tell me how your career path has gone, because you say you started off with St. Louis, and yet you played with Kansas City, and then you're back with St. Louis, you said, for 4 years, or is it 4 years total? What's your history with those two teams?
First 3 years I was with St. Louis. Last summer we folded in St. Louis because financial reasons, numbers, we couldn't pull it off. So we went ahead and folded for a year and couldn't imagine a summer without football. So 5 of us from St. Louis made a commitment to play for KC. And so we drove every weekend for the entire summer, the beginning before games started for practice, and then when games started every Saturday, it was a road trip to KC, and all 5 of us played for Kansas City. It was successful, and we had a lot of fun, and they embraced us. They treated us like royalty. They were great. Like, it was a wonderful experience.
What was it like? I've had conversations with Katie Sowers, and I'm curious what it was like to play with her in the huddle. And especially last year. I mean, that was an amazing year that she had.
She is like a football genius, and we knew this. Like, playing for KC, we always knew. Like, well, and obviously you're familiar with her sister, and obviously they're not the only 2 players on KC that, you know, make a lot of noise. But we always knew the Sauer sisters, and so then going to meet them, it's like, oh my God, they're like superstars, you know. And then you realize how humble they are. You're like, oh, they're just humans, just like us, and they are so completely different, but so the same. And it's crazy, the roles that they play on their team. And Katie is like the most calm, like, collected person ever. And when she would say stuff, like the football knowledge that she has, I'm like, oh my gosh, like she must have been playing for 10 years. Like, it's crazy. Like, she's so smart. She can read everything. And, you know, we didn't get to go to practice a lot. So she pretty much memorized everything, which as a quarterback you have to, but anything, like anytime there's a play, she knew what I was supposed to do or what our receiver who came from St. Louis was supposed to do. They took care of us, you know, and they never let us, like, same with Coach Dion, you know, they never let us fall on our face. They knew that we couldn't make it to practice. They opened their homes to us. They took really good care of us.
When you realized that St. Louis was going to field a team again, that must have happened all sort of in whirlwind fashion, if from one year to the next. Did you have any bittersweet emotions about that you had found this home in Kansas City, which, from what I can see, was an extremely successful campaign, and now you're going to go back to St. Louis? What was that like?
Oh, it was, oh my gosh, emotional is the perfect word. Even going there, losing St. Louis, losing a family, and trying to be a part of another one that was already, like, established. And no matter how welcoming they were, it was still hard. And so, like, the first game, I was, like, really pumped, excited. And then all of a sudden, like, the locker room routine was different than ours had been in St. Louis. So that emotion, like, took me over. And I was just, like, tears came to my eyes, like, oh, my gosh, this is a different team. And it's hard. But they made it so much easier, like, because they knew it was hard for us, and so they supported us in every way. Like, they understood that it was hard, and they also knew that it may only be a year that we would be in Kansas City, because they knew they encouraged, like, we hope you guys get the Slam back, because we were like, we're both in the state of Missouri and very supportive of each other and the competitive. They want the league to blossom. So a team getting shut down is just kind of like we're taking a couple steps backwards. Now it was hard to think like, oh wow, we're gonna have a team in St. Louis, and I was happy. I was really, really happy. But then I was like, oh wow, we're not gonna see them as much anymore. And when we do see them, they're gonna be on the other side of the ball. And of course, it's always gonna be all love, but it's still, yeah, like you said, it was kind of an emotional thing, because like I said, you built a family, and then you had to leave, and you're back with and actually in St. Louis, it's almost a whole new team.
How, when you head back to St. Louis, do they manage to say, listen, okay, here's the game plan, and we want you back, and this is going to be a solid enough situation for you to leave Kansas City, to come back from Kansas City, because that would be an amazing thing. I think to leave Kansas City to come back to something that was shaky might be difficult. It would be difficult for me. How was that for you and the other women on the team?
I had high hopes because I knew that this is where I'm originated from, and this is where I want to be. And it was already really hard to leave and play for another team, even though it wasn't like a betrayal because we didn't have a team, but it was still hard. So I felt that even if I had a team of 50 rookies who had no idea what they were going to do, this is where I was supposed to be. I mean, in Kansas City, like, stat-wise, I guess it was, like, the most successful for me. But I'm not really a stat person. Like, I appreciate all of, like, the accolades and the support. But, like, that's not why I do it, And I love, like, when I say I love watching, like, a rookie or even a vet, like, succeed, score a touchdown, break tackles, make a tackle when stuff we've been working on all year, and they can get their head across and make the correct tackle. That's more exciting to me. Like, that's the reward. And in St. Louis, I knew this was going to be a rebuilding year. So whether it's win or lose, we're starting over, and this is a positive thing. Because like I said, like, we're creating the platform for girls that are 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. This girl that came to our practice last week, and she's in high school, and she's like, you guys are like my idols. Like, she wants to take pictures. And I'm like, wow, like, people, like, this is a movement. It has to happen. Whether we're the best team in the league this year or the worst, we're still rebuilding.
This seems like a pretty rough schedule this year to be rebuilding in front of. Kansas City, May 2nd, you're looking at that, I'm sure, and then Minnesota on the 9th. Then you've got Chicago to close the year out, Kansas City again in June. Is rebuilding something you just resign yourself to, or do you look at these games and think that there's a playoff berth in here possibly?
Oh, yeah, playoff berth, because, like I said, I put a lot of my trust in Coach, and the year before Kansas City, when we played Kansas City at Kansas City, it was the third time we played them that year. We ended up beating them, which I know my Kansas City teammates we never talk about it. We ended up beating them 58-55, and it was a big surprise to the entire league. We only had about 20 players, maybe, and everyone playing both sides of the ball, and we beat them. And a lot of people were surprised and almost like, was this a mistake? Or, was it a fluke? And then we ended up getting Dallas at home, and we lost to Dallas, but we put 21 points up on Dallas. And we were the first team for the entire year to even put more than 7 points up on Dallas. So we made noise with 20 people, and that's the whole point. Like, it's all about what's inside and if you have the drive. And so, you can have 50 amazing athletes on your team, but if no one works together and if no one has the same vision, then it won't matter. I definitely see a playoff, especially with, like, Quincy Davis. He's our coach. He, like I said, anything he puts together, I believe in. And so, I will say there'll probably be some rough moments in games, but there's not one team where I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to that game. We're going to get slaughtered at all. Because, as you know, Chicago, they have replaced their quarterback with another good quarterback, but it's still different.
Well, it's a different. It's hard to replace a legend.
Right. Exactly. So, and even the vets that were already there working with the legend, now they have to work with someone new. And so every team each year has to get rookies, and each year an important vet retires. Lucky for Kansas City, vet-wise, I think they're still pretty strong. Like Katie, Liz, and they got a couple of linemen that are really good. defense side of the ball, they're really good. They're strong. And, like, in Chicago, of course, is strong. But every team has to deal with some sort of adversity. Anything is possible.
Well, you mentioned some people thought that it might have been a mistake that you beat Kansas City and you put points up on the board against Dallas. There's a word for what happened, Taylor. It's called scoreboard. That's what that was. It was not a mistake. It was a scoreboard. You know, I'm going to come back to something here we talked about. By the way, everyone listening, again, this is Taylor Hay of the St. Louis Slam. Last year, Kansas City, and then prior to that, St. Louis as well. You know, if you were to talk to people who are NFL fans, and that's the major football audience in America, if you told them there was a league out there full of football purists who play a technically sound game, they play the game for the love of it. In fact, they're willing to pay to play, and when they take off their helmets, you can actually understand what they say. And every other word is not an F-bomb, and they speak with eloquence about the game. They love the game, and they love football fans in general, etc. A football fan that watches the NFL would say, wow, that sounds like a fantasy. Where is that sport? Yet when I talk to people about the WFA, all of a sudden they seem to disconnect between what you've said and what they're envisioning. What do you think, Taylor, is necessary to take an audience hungry for the brand of football in the WFA, take them from the sidelines or from the sidelines of the NFL or other sports, and get them in front of the WFA, the game that on paper, they'd say they'd want to watch?
I think it's a really, really, I think it's going to be a process. I think that we have made a dent in the process, but I think it's going to take some time. At the end of the day, this is a man's world, in quotations, that we live in, and
yeah, but hold on, wait, I can't let you go past that. Do you believe that? I've listened to you talk.
I don't. That's why I put in quotations.
Okay, yeah, because in our conversation, I don't hear anything about you that would suggest that you believe that.
No, I don't believe in that, but I'm also realistic. Now, I have my own world. I live in Taylor's world, and so I see the world in a different perspective than most, but that is what it is.
So, as you look ahead to 2015, what are the major challenges? You talked earlier about how a playoff berth is in mind, and I want to keep it real if I can. It may be in mind, but there are teams who have the continuity moving into 2015 now who are looking to just lower the hammer on fresh meat coming in here, which is what St. Louis essentially will be after a year off. So What are the literal hurdles that you've got to overcome in St. Louis? What are the components you've got to have really hitting on all cylinders this year to make it to even a winning record?
Our biggest obstacle right now when it comes to just the whole experience period is financial issues. When it comes to coaching, it's there. When it comes to the numbers, they're there. And when it comes to the drive, it's there. There'll be some, our coach just said yesterday at practice, like tomorrow when we go to our scrimmage, he said, our team is made up of more rookies than their team is. And there's going to be some mistakes and some obstacles that we face that they won't because they're new, they're rookie mistakes. But if we pick each other up, and if we stay focused and we do the little things that we do know, basically it's focus was his word, because you have all the answers to the test. We've been repping things for months now, and you have notes and you have extra practice time. You have all of this. So like you said, you have all the answers to the test. All you can do is be great at this point. So I'm the positive Polly. My coach said, I forgot how he calls it. He tells me it's unrealistic optimism sometimes.
Wait. Did you just refer to yourself as positive Polly?
Yep, that's me.
Are you now
angle, every area in my life? That's me.
Is that a nickname you've got? Because if it's not already, I think you've just given yourself a nickname, Positive Polly. I think around the league,
yeah,
you'll be known as Positive.
It's just terminology that I've always been around. I don't know if it's soccer terminology or not, but my teammates in college, they used to call me that because they said that I always see the silver lining in the dark cloud no matter what.
Yeah, so. I get the feeling talking with you, and tell me if I'm wrong about this. If they said, listen, this was just you and some women and some men, I suspect, and you're going to the backyard on a Saturday afternoon, you love football. You want to get out there and play, right? I mean, that's the bottom line here.
A lot of us don't even want to get paid, but to have it paid for, like the fields and the referees and, you know what I mean? Like everything that comes with it, the travel, all of that, if that could just be covered, like when it comes to getting a check for it, most of us would, I mean, I'm sure there's a few people who will say, yeah, sure, I'll take that. But to me, I mean, that's not important to me.
Gotcha.
But in life period, money is not the most important thing to me. So I probably see things in a different light than a lot of other people.
That's why you're positive Polly. You're positive Polly. That's
yep,
right.
Positive Polly. Yep, there she is.
Well, I want to end on a couple questions here. Just kind of fun. I hope they're fun. First of all, why don't you give a shout out to some of the teammates you got that are coming back, some of the veterans. Who are some players that we should look out for on the Slam with you this year?
We have Jelani Kelly. She's actually our quarterback. A couple years ago, she was a rookie, and she was a rookie linebacker and a rookie fullback, actually. And she is our quarterback. And she is, I would call her the truth. She is going to surprise a lot of people. And she's humble, and she's really quiet. So when you see her play, you think you know her, and then you talk to her, and she says 3 words, you know? So that's probably my favorite thing about her. And then, of course, we still have a couple 12-year vets that are coming back, Robin Morrow and Juan Snow. One's a lineman and one's a safety. And then we have 2 key defensive backs, Kaylee Neisling and Kiana. They're both All-Americans and both actually All-American receivers and defensive backs. So for us, they will make a major impact.
In the conversation, the few sentences you threw out there, there's so many things to talk about. I'd love to know, for example, about the longevity of the players in this league. I keep hearing about these 10 and 12-year vets, and I know that there are players in this league who are 50 or older. The age range is unbelievable. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, how in the world people can get out there and play football for so long. How are some of these women able to play for such long careers?
Well, a lot of them are mothers, and you know how mothers are.
Yeah.
No, there's a couple of vets on our team that are in their 40s, and I look at them and I'm like, wow, I'm 27. I put in this will be my 5th year, and I'm looking at 30 like, I don't know if I'll even make it there. They paved the way for me. So I am forever in debt to them because they have created a place for me to have a peace of mind and a place for me to continue being an athlete outside of college. And they tell us, well, not so much anymore because there's not that many vets left that, from that 12-year group, but my last year with the Slam before Kansas City, they used to tell us, like, we used to come and paint the fields and we'd have to turn the lights on and roll the lights from the building, and you guys have it easy. They used to tease us, and they used to paint the fields the night before the game. They used to roll the lights out from the building, which are big, huge, heavy machines, and they did everything. They raised all their money, similar to what we do, but obviously back then it wasn't just, there weren't GoFundMe accounts. Facebook and Instagram probably weren't, their friends.
Yeah, that's an amazing point that you've made there, because when you talk about the sport, and let's say even 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there were not the sorts of tools people have out there to communicate and spread the word. The women who played this game a decade ago, I mean, you got to really tip your hat to them, right? I mean, they paved the way.
Man, it's crazy. When I look at them at practice, and sometimes when I feel like, oh, man, I'm not about to do this exercise, I cannot get through this, and then I look at them and I'm like, well, okay, first of all, they're in their 40s and they've been playing for 12 years and they're doing the exercise without even stopping. So what is my excuse? You know what I mean? So, and the same with the big dogs. When I look at what we call our linemen, our big people, and then, our skinny people is what we call everyone else. So when I look at the big dogs and I see them get through an ab circuit, and I try to talk there's some point in a time in a practice where you're going to try to talk yourself out of something. And then you have to look at your teammate like, wow, but they're 300 pounds more than me and they're doing the same exact workout. Nothing's altered for them. Nothing's modified. So what's my excuse? It's all a mental thing. I mean, if you change your mind, you change your world. So like I said, they really, I can never, ever, ever say that there's nothing that they haven't done. For us, physically.
You're not exactly a rookie. You've been around the league 5 years now. or you've been in 5 years. So you have the ability to speak from the authority of a veteran on some stuff. And one of the things that I'd be curious about is, as a veteran, by the way, again, everyone listening, this is Taylor Hay of the St. Louis Slam and the Kansas City Titans last year and the St. Louis Slam before that. This is Taylor Hay. We talked about some of your teammates. Real quick, just throw out a few names around the league, some women that just bring it, that you say, now that right there, that's what I aspire to. Who are some of those ladies?
I'll throw Katie in there just because she's Katie, because she went from a receiver to a quarterback in a season and pulled it off. It was offensive, MVP of the league. Like, who does that? You know what I mean? For Katie, she had to step up into what people would say, a legend shoes. I don't know if you knew Jenny Schmidt, but she was the quarterback for Kansas City Tribe for many years, and she was a great quarterback.
Yeah, and let's. I mean, her nickname is in some circles the legend. So that's no joke. So she literally
right. It's no joke.
So we got Katie. Who else?
Katie. Well, and then of Liz, of course, because Liz is just an athlete. Liz can play any sport and be probably the best at it. And I hate her for it. I love her and hate her for it because it's not fair. A lot of girls I just met when we went to the All-Star game. You have Rachel Gore, who is now the quarterback for Chicago. Once again, it's kind of a Katie situation. Of course, she's been a quarterback. To step into a hole that was filled by Sammy is not an easy job, and everything that comes along with it. You have to have a lot of grace,
that's right,
and a lot of dignity.
Just because you're a well-known player with a pedigree of your own, stepping into those shoes would be a daunting task, and you got to give some respect to that. I mean, that's
you really do. And once again, a quarterback position, like you said, one of the toughest positions, and to do it. And Rachel is. She's not small, but she's not as tall as Katie, and she's also she's just not that tall, and she's like, she's like a Drew Brees, Oh, actually, I would probably make her a Russell Wilson, but she's a little more agile than Drew Brees is. But she's a different type of quarterback, and especially the different type of quarterback than Sammy.
Are there any defensive players out there that you don't want to get hit by? I mean, who's a defensive name that you think, okay, well, I'm suiting up, but I'm going to stay on the other side of the field from that person?
One is on my St. Louis team who also went to Kansas City with me. Her name is Alana Fields. She's actually currently getting her PhD in Pittsburgh right now, so she will be visiting or joining us in the middle of April. But she is, oh my God, she is. No, she's not an angry person. She's actually a really quiet person. When she gets on the field, she's crazy. Like she is really crazy. She will play with any injury in the world and still manage to. She dedicates sacks. So every game she gets at least one sack, and that's what she does with her fundraising. She says whoever donates money, she promises to donate or to dedicate a sack to them. So she is once again, she's not a legend, but she's definitely the truth as well. And then you have I don't know if you knew Risha Graves. She was the running back for KC a couple years ago, but she's also a middle linebacker who is, you don't want to get hit by her. Like, I don't want to get hit by her ever. And
Wait. Let me be clear about something. I don't want to get hit by nobody. I don't want to get by you. I'm comfortable I'm comfortable watching. I'm curious about who you don't want to get hit by. And she's one of those.
Yeah, I don't want to get hit by her.
Right. If the game ended tomorrow, what is the chapter about your involvement called? The Taylor Hay chapter. What's the title of that chapter?
Oh my gosh, the title of my chapter. The league ended tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't even say I don't know if I'd put it in. You know what? I would call it Rudy.
Right on. Everybody, Taylor Hay, St. Louis Slam. Taylor, thanks for being here.
No problem. Thank you.